You will be getting your new tablets today.
Okay.
He's charging them more.
Bless you.
You hadn't had them plugged in when we were doing all the installs and they were down to like 30-something%. I said, Andrew, the last thing we want is to have them run out of charge
Right.
on the very first day.
Do we have to kick Don out?
Hey guys, we are officially streaming to Facebook. You can go ahead and start the meeting whenever you'd like.
All right.
I would like to call the July 6th Henrietta Town Board public hearing meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Here.
Councilmember Stafford,
Here.
Councilmember Safranek,
Here.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. We'll begin with a short moment of silence for prayer and then a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we have 3 public hearings tonight. The first one is for the proposed establishment of extension number 169, Lehigh Park 2 to the Henrietta Water District number 1. Do we have anyone presenting?
Oh, so Steve, we're doing the workshop meeting first.
What's that? Oh yeah, workshop meeting first.
Yeah,
I got the
that's
wrong
right.
agenda. I'm sorry. No wonder why there's no one here. That's better. We have 6 special permits for Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. L3 Harris, LY Dumpling House for outdoor seating. So the L3 Harris is for an antenna. Milestone Movies for a temporary drive-in movie theater. 2 for Tally Ho to serve food and have outdoor patio seating, and then Nuff Hair Studio to operate a hair salon. There'll be no public presentations, but and then later today there will be 3 public hearings. So I guess I have to amend because I read the wrong thing. I apparently called the town board workshop meeting to order, not the special permit meeting. Excuse me, public hearing meeting. So that's what's on the agenda for this week. First up, the consider approving the preliminary plat and conveyance of land to the townwide conservation land bank Forest View subdivision. So this is again what's on for the public hearing later today. Chris, did you want to talk about this? I don't see Chris Martin on.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically we've talked about this in great length. Tonight is, just to hear the public hearing. And then if things go well, then we can vote on it Wednesday night for the open space.
Okay.
And go ahead.
And I just sent out, well, I don't know if it's in the packet, but I did send out the drawing that has the layout of the, a rendering of the neighborhood with the single lot homes. If you remember, they went from the 0 lot line duplexes to the individual homes, and included in that had a rendering, a preliminary concept for what the park would look like. So I don't know that it made it into the packet, But like I said, I did send it. Becky, could you share that to the screen? The one?
Yes, give me just a second here. Your little color drawing?
Yeah, the one with the color drawing.
Yes. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button. Got it.
I did. Yeah. That one. So as you can see, it's the individual homes, and then the white road out the bottom, that's the town park, and it would circle around and just inside the curl of the trees. He doesn't include the property fully to the south in this particular rendering he did, but that's essentially the parking lot and the cabin. And then included in there, we would have a road to go to the pump station at the pond, just so that, I don't know if it's a pump station, I'm sorry, just to get to the storm sewer access for the pond in case we had to do any maintenance on the pond or on the, flush the sanitary, or excuse me, the storm system. So that's what we'd be looking at. That's the general concept. Obviously, when we get down to the layout of the full property, that might change slightly, but that's essentially what we're going to be considering. Any questions on that?
When is the planning, did I see somewhere that the planning board is meeting on this project tomorrow?
Planning board is tomorrow at 7. Is that correct, Chris?
I'm not Chris, but I can confirm that yes, it's tomorrow at 7.
So they are.
Yes, that's correct. Tomorrow at 7.
And tomorrow is seeker confirmation.
That's correct.
Is there a preliminary?
Yeah, so they're going for seeker and then preliminary subdivision approval, yes, if seeker gets approved.
As far as the town board, ours is only about the, consider approving the conveyance to the town for the Parkland. There's some people who think that if we say no to this, the thing does not go through. That's not actually true. Under New York State law for clustering, they could just put a conservation easement on it instead. But the idea is, we have a bunch of land that surrounds the Lehigh Valley Trail with no good street access to it. And so this would provide, and part of the thing we've asked them to provide in this, essentially in exchange for us taking the land, which of course reduces his tax burden, he's going to essentially build the entrance to that road there. That gives us the access for the park. And so the idea is that we would put, I'd at least want a bathroom there, and probably either a pavilion or a cabin, depending on what we decide later on going on. But the idea is making a nice park area. One of the things I've noted, if you look at the distribution of parkland throughout the town, we don't have anything that's really in the southwest quadrant. We have 2 that are kind of on the edges, southeast quadrant, 2 that are on the edges of the southeast quadrant. You've got Lookup Park, which is at the, between the southeast and northeast quadrant. And then you have Martin Road Park, which is sort of, it's a little bit more to the southwest quadrant, but it's right around the middle road is, in theory, the dividing line between east and west. So, but there's nothing really, southwest quadrant has Breeze Park. We've got Tinker Park in the northeast. We've got, of course, Memorial Park in the center of town. There isn't a whole lot in the northwest because of RIT, although we're working on with the local waterfront revitalization plan to change that, to add some park to the northwest. And so this would give us an opportunity to add some park to the southeast. So, anything else? So number 2 and 3 are consider establishing.
Steve, I'm sorry, there's a lot of sounds happening. I do have someone here with a hand raised. It's a phone number. but I know that we're handling that at the public hearing, I would imagine.
Correct. Let them know that it'll be at the public hearing at the workshop. There's not really a spot for input.
Yeah, workshops.
So items number 2 and 3 are the extension to the water district and the sewer district for Lehigh Park 2. So basically, this would extend the district for the facilities that they put in so that they're then paying the sewer and water rates within that district. Do you have anything you wanted to add to that, Chris?
No, I'm all set, Steve. Basically, it's just to extend, as you said, the water district for Lehigh Park over from Lehigh Park 1, and then also for the sanitary sewer from Lehigh Park 1 to 2. So no huge issues there.
Any questions? So again, that public hearing will also be later at 6 p.m. tonight.
I just want to make sure the developer's living up to what he's supposed to live up to so far before we grant him any more permits for.
Well, okay, and that's fine, just so you understand that this basically allows us to then charge them for the water and the sewer by putting them in the district. Number 4 is consider authorizing the supervisor to execute a proposal from BME Associates for the Veterans Memorial Park Culvert Project. So as we spoken previously, the fact that we only have a single entrance into and out of Memorial Park is problematic, especially at the 4th of July. God forbid there was ever something to happen there. It makes it very difficult for emergency services to get into and out of. And so this would provide a second entrance. This would be at the back of the senior center parking lot. There's currently a footbridge there. This would replace that footbridge, and we would use that footbridge at another location, replacing one of the older, less hardy bridges, shall we say. This would also provide, in addition to the road, we would have essentially a sidewalk, so it would be 2 lanes and a sidewalk, because also for the 4th of July, we use the senior center for handicap accessibility into the park, but then they have to cross that grate, as in G-R-A-T-E, bridge, and it's difficult for wheelchairs and especially for people with canes or walkers. So this would be, concrete or asphalt surface, and therefore, and we build it with minimal crown so that it'd be very easy to navigate for people with restricted mobility. So the other thing it would do is on the 4th of July, one of the things that always happens is after the main tent activity shut down and we go to the fireworks, the people want to come get in, break down their tents and get out of there. But if they're driving around the loop road, the exit out by the bridge, their headlights are then shining on the people who are trying to watch the fireworks. So this would allow them to essentially escape out the back on the back side of the hill so that they wouldn't be they wouldn't be interfering at all with what's going on with the fireworks. So it just makes things a lot easier. And, whereas we've put a lot of capital projects on hold because of the uncertainty with regards to funds, because this is coming from drainage funds, it is not affected by COVID. So you can't put the general fund into it or take money from there out to the general. Well, I guess you could put general fund in, but the point is we don't need to put general fund in. It was included in that original budget, and largely when you look at from when we had done the original budget, there was the Castle Road culvert came in below estimate. So we have the funding left over to do this year. And so again, that's what we're looking at doing. Did you want to add anything with regards to the proposal, Chris?
Yeah, Steve, I'd like to add that we did get a proposal from BME Associates this morning, and I'm in the process of reviewing it. Right now, the total price, if we choose all the different options, is, this is just for the design, is $40,950. But there's some additional things like hydraulic analysis that we might be able to remove for $5,000. And then if we waive the geotechnical services, that's another $7,200, which would bring that down to $28,750. What I'd like to do is tomorrow we have an engineering meeting with the supervisor, Chuck Marshall and Craig Eckert and myself. I think we kind of like to go over this in detail and then come up with a number. And then if we feel that's feasible, we'll go forward. If not, then maybe we'll seek a couple other proposals from other consultants. Any questions?
No, I'll just add that the goal would be to do this in the summer while it's drier, makes the work around the stream a lot easier, so.
Correct.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Yep.
We're not done yet. For
One
5,
more.
talking about authorizing funds for increased cost to the 2020 sanitary sewer and lateral repair project. So I don't remember if we talked about this one at the board level. I know we had the discussion with Don. We've had for a while in the works a plan to bring sewers to a number of properties on Lehigh Station Road that currently don't have it. And this is across from the high school. One of the houses under consideration, their septic system failed. So they are currently living on bottled water and using a porta potty. So one of the things we had looked into, this is the one we're doing. We had applied for the community development block grant funding. We got the initial approval. Chris and Craig are working on fast tracking that. And one of the things we looked at is because it's essentially the same work that's being done in the sanitary sewer work, rather than have to go through the long process of going out to bid, can we do this as a change order on the current bid, the current contract that we bid out earlier this year. So Don found an example of case law that covered exactly that scenario. One of the things it talked about was as long as it's not the cart pulling the horse, and by that I mean that if the addition was of equal size or larger than the original contract, then that's not really kosher. But in this case, it was something like the original contract was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and this was like $40,000. So I think it was.
Yeah, so let's interrupt you for a minute, Steve. The original 2020 sanitary sewer repair budget was $423,200. We're estimating right now that the work for the Lehigh Station Road sanitary sewer is around $50,000, though we are awaiting, a quote from Lamaze Construction.
Right.
So we haven't got that yet, but I have talked to Dirk, and he's working one up, Dirk Lamaze. So hopefully we'll get that tomorrow.
Yep. And so for those who aren't, if you don't remember, Dirk is the one who took over the original sanitary and lateral repair project that had been having a bunch of problems. And since he's taken over, those problems have gone away. The residents are all very happy with the work he does in terms of notifying them when there's work coming, protecting their lawns from the work he's doing, and restoring the lawn to its original condition as soon as possible. So, like I said, it's the nice thing is if we're adding this, we're adding it to a contractor who has served the town very well. So happy about that. So like I said, that's what we're looking to do with this one.
How many homes is this?
The initial
3.
portion,
By the high school?
so there's we're doing it in phases. For phase one, it's just 3 homes, but what this does is it brings the sewer from a nearby street and gets it there. So that's the major work, and these 3 homes can all be gravity fed. And then what the next phase to the west would require either a pump station. There's a couple different routes we can go. We can drain. It basically continues to drain to the west. So at the very end of those line of houses, there's another half dozen, I believe, houses that we could put a pump station at the end and pump it back in. So we have a connection point at the end of this line that we're putting in that could receive a force main. The other option is they could each do what are called grinder pumps. They could each have essentially their own individual pumps and pump into the
force main.
Say that again?
Yeah, so basically what they could do is we could put a 4-inch perforated, or a 4-inch pipe rather, and then each individual home could pump into that with a grinder pump to get it to that new manhole that we're doing under phase 1. And then the third alternative is if we can get it to flow to the south towards the high school, there's a sanitary sewer directly west of the high school that we may be able to do it by gravity, but we have to check the grades first. We were really focusing on these 3 homes near Alita and Lehigh Station because they were experiencing issues, and we can do it by gravity.
Right, so we're basically, like I said, we have 3 homes with failing system 1 that has failed. And so the idea is let's get them hooked up now. And then the third phase, and again, which order we do phase 2 and 3 to be determined. But the other one is then to go east from Alita and essentially, again, drain down into this manhole that we're coming down Alita. But phase 1 and what the community development block grant is covering is to essentially get that main down and over there so that we can pick up these homes and get them on sewer.
But the homes are still responsible for connecting to the sewer pipe.
That is correct. And so they have to put in their laterals. Basically what we do, and it's on, well, actually, I don't know if it was on a previous packet that went out, but I don't know if it's in this one, but basically from the clean out, lateral clean out is to the main is the town's responsibility. From the lateral clean out to the house is the homeowner's responsibility.
That's correct, Steve.
I learn a few things in your meetings, Chris.
Here, I thought you were sleeping.
Only occasionally. Any other questions? So like I said, hopefully we'll have a solid estimate. In theory, we could wait till the next meeting, but as soon as we get the go-ahead from the community development block grant, I want to get started. So that's why if we can get it done at this meeting, I know it's a last minute, but if we can get it done at this meeting, I'd prefer to do it at this meeting. That way we're ready to go.
Would that, how much you think, would that cover the whole thing? The grant?
Pretty close, Mike. Our estimate was around 50,000, and that's what we're getting the block grant for. You know, it's always, until you get the final quote, you never know, or the quote, you never know, but, you know, it could be 60, which is still, you know, only $10,000 for the 3 residents to pay over, you know, a certain amount of time, so.
Right, so if there's anything above what's covered in the community development block grant, then what we would do is we would create essentially an extension of the sewer district, and we would split that charge up over the homeowners for some amount of time. Typically that's done by bonding. We're gonna see if there's alternatives to going out and getting a bond, but if we have to get a bond, we'll get a bond. Because again, the key is that in the past, without that community development block grant, I mean, if you can just think about it this way, right? If I'm splitting $50,000 cost amongst 3 homes, that's really expensive, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the beauty of the community development block grants is it helps some of these older neighborhoods with lesser infrastructure, and especially in areas that aren't, you know, the high-end stuff. It helps them get that infrastructure in place so that they can enjoy sewer. So, amongst other things.
Yep, and the project was designed through the engineering department by Chris Hauser. So again, we're trying to save costs by doing it in-house as opposed to going out to a consultant.
Any other questions? Chuck, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
So 6 is the consider authorizing installation of a stop sign westbound on Planters Row at East Henrietta Road. So this came from the county, is that correct? Or excuse me,
It should be Planters Row at East River Road.
One says East Henrietta, one says
Yeah.
East
oh, that's
River.
good. Cool.
But I don't,
Is it East Henrietta or East River?
East River.
Okay, so
Where
then it would
is
be the
this?
county. That's why I thought it came from the
I don't
county.
even
but I
think
wasn't-
It's the second road access into the Howlett subdivision there at East River and Erie Station.
Howlett subdivision.
Gotcha.
when I Googled it, it didn't even,
Well, it's probably doesn't have a name yet. Well, I mean, that it's not registered.
Cedar Road, but there's no name.
Yeah.
okay. That's why,
Yeah, it's the normal request the county puts through. It'll be their assembly. They'll put it up, no cost to the town, but the town board has to pass a resolution acknowledging installation of that so that
Can you speak up?
Can't hear
We're
you.
having trouble hearing you.
it's the usual county request. They put the signpost and assembly in place, no cost to the town. And then the town board just needs to pass a resolution, authorize the installation of it so that it's part of the codes.
That way it's enforceable from a moving violation standpoint, correct?
Correct.
Any questions on that?
I like no cost to the town.
Yeah.
Other question.
Number 7, consider approving issuance of a building permit for the installation of a shed at 789 Erie Station Road pursuant to Article 10. Becky,
This is pretty self-explanatory. You're used to these by this point, but so 789 Erie Station Road has requested a shed. The Historic Site Committee has reviewed the application and said that they have no problems with it. So now it's on to you guys.
any questions on that one? Or on number 8, which is consider approving issuance of a building permit for an above-ground pool at 480 Pinnacle Road pursuant to Article 10.
And this one came in just on Thursday, I believe. I did get a quorum of 4 unofficial votes from the Historic Site Committee saying they're in favor of it. Just because of the way the meetings fall and it being summertime, we want these people to get a pool if they want a pool. So we're kind of doing it a little backwards, but we're hoping the Historic Site Committee could possibly meet tomorrow and we can still do it the normal way. But unofficially, the Historic Site Committee is on board with this. Right now, the resolution's written as a condition upon approval of the Historic Site Committee, so you guys can get your part out of the way.
But they will rule on it before Wednesday, right?
They're going to try to rule on it before Wednesday. If not, then, so again, they've not at an official meeting individually, they've all said, I support this, I support that. So they have 4 out of however many members are there?
7.
So 4 out of 7 have said they are in support. But they haven't officially voted on it. So if they can't meet tomorrow, they can't have enough of a quorum to meet tomorrow, then what we were gonna do is if we wanted to, we could approve it contingent upon it receiving Historic Site Committee approval. So in other words, we'd say if the Historic Site Committee says yes, then we're good to go with it. It's a little bit out of the ordinary,
So
but
when
as
would they be
Becky
able to get
said,
their building permit? That's done.
as soon as the Historic Site, so let's say the Historic Site Committee can't meet till Thursday. They would get it after Thursday's meeting. But we just felt that, with the longer time between meetings and the fact that, so by the time our next meeting is here, the hot days of July are over. Figure the kids want to get in that swimming pool. So we're just trying to speed things along for that one. Especially because again, it's This is another one that's pretty straightforward. It's completely behind the historic site, the historic house. It's not affecting the outside, so.
Looks like it's a sizable yard. They have a pond in the back.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, it looks like a really sizable yard. There's a pond in back and everything, so.
Yep. Any other questions on that one? Number 9, we had a discussion at our staff meeting regarding the idea of basically having, we're calling it summer Fridays, where it's basically just work. So one of the things is we're putting together our reopen plan, the amount of additional work to deal with the people coming in, it takes away from some of their ability to get some of the regular work done. And so Becky brought up the concept of, would there be an issue with if this summer we basically, Friday would be by appointment only. Otherwise the doors would be closed and they would be able to get done the work that they are having issue getting to because of, again, the additional, I'll call it overhead necessary to deal with responding to folks during the COVID crisis. Did you want to add to that, Becky?
I was just gonna say, you know, as you guys know, the clerk's office is my little work family, and not unlike a mama bear, when I see my team struggling, I want to protect them and do whatever I can. So we came up with the idea for summer Fridays to try to somehow get more hours in the day. If we were to close the town hall to the public at 1 p.m., that'd give my staff 4 hours a week of uninterrupted work time to try to get through things, between being short a person since February until just recently and handling the extra workload related to COVID-19. We've just been working a lot of extra hours just to keep up. So this would essentially get us to hopefully a better point when we start school tax collection again in September.
So Becky, what type of things would people typically call in for an appointment for?
So I actually wasn't proposing that we be appointment only. I was just saying that we were going to be closing at 1 p.m. to the public. However, if somebody should need a marriage license, sometimes, you know, like the only day they can come in is say Friday, you know, at 2 p.m. after they get out of work or whatnot, you know, we'd be able to do that just like we would now if they should call and say the only time they can come in is at 8:30 a.m. Obviously, we don't open until 9, but we do it the same way, you know, if they needed to come in.
Okay, that's my fault, Rob. Mine, I wasn't fully up to date on. When we had talked at the meeting, there was talk about that we would do closed all Friday except for appointment only. Sounded like they had a talk and decided to go. There were a couple options on the table. Go for the close at 1 o'clock. That way people come in the morning. You know, the DPW closes early on Fridays in the summer also.
And I did talk to the other public facing department heads, Kevin, Chris, and Sarah, and they're on board to give it a try. So it'd be 8 weeks essentially from Friday, July 10th through till Friday, August 28th, right before school tax in September.
Okay. So 1 p.m. close, okay. Thanks.
Just, do you have any idea what the busiest day of walk-ins is? Is it what day of the week?
It always depends. I guess depending on the time of year, gosh, sometimes on a beautiful summer Friday, things are slow. I mean, obviously it's different now with the COVID-19, not as many people may be traveling, but I know sometimes it becomes sort of like a ghost town. You know, in terms of staff, everybody leaves and they wanted to get started on their weekend, but I don't have very good numbers on that. Unfortunately, the building department brings all their invoices over to us at the end of the day. So if I run my register thing, it's disproportionate because of all those building department invoices that get put in at the end of the day. So I don't have a really good way to track that right now, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. I'm good.
So I guess the question is there any objection to us doing such? Don, do we need a resolution to change office hours? Regular
I'm not sure
office
if
hours?
that's set somewhere.
We do set office hours at organization, well, I think we may have done it prior to organizational this year, but at organizational each year.
So then, Becky, if we do it by resolution at organizational meeting, we probably ought to make this a resolution.
Probably, yeah, because staff would still do regular hours, but for the public facing part of it, yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
So if you could note that we'll need a resolution to set those summer hours. Everyone okay with the 1 o'clock
You fine
time?
with it?
Yep.
It'll be over before tax season, right?
It'll be over before tax season.
Great.
Yeah, this is, they want to try to clear out their backlog before we get to the school tax. Okay. Number 10, considering accepting donation in Henrietta Public Library. Dr. Lauren and Dr. Peter Rosella. Adrian, are you on?
I am. I'm here. It's a donation. We should accept it. Yes. Hello. I saw Rob waving. So does anybody have any questions about it?
I don't.
No.
No.
Right.
Don, is that microphone right up to the speakers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it not very loud out there?
It's not as loud as normal.
We turned down the volume because it seemed extra loud before the meeting, but Don, if you wanted to adjust the volume on the computer, I turned it down a little.
For some people, it's good. And I mean, for some people speaking, you can hear them, and for others, you can't really hear them.
Yeah,
You know, it's not.
I just turned it up.
okay.
Thanks.
Glad you turned it up for Chuck. That wasn't needed.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 11, town board workshop, special use permit. So one of the things I brought up is the question of, do we need regular workshop meetings? Seems to me we discussed the same things at the town board meeting. And I know some previous administrations do not seem to want to have discussion or debate at the board meetings, but obviously I welcome it. I think people are better informed when they hear the underpinnings of our decisions. The one purpose I see for workshop is if there are specific questions about any of the agenda items that need to be addressed prior to the board meeting. As such, I would suggest that we continue having the agenda and items ready by Monday as we do now. That would give council members time to review. And if there is information needed, they can contact me one-on-one or can send an email asking for the additional details or questions answered. If there is something significant that does need a workshop meeting, obviously we could call one on a special basis. You know, so that's kind of what I'm was looking at, and part of it where we're getting in this is with the public hearings and a bunch of other stuff we were looking at, you know, what makes the most sense and how we handle the meetings. And then one of the things we had said is, you know, if we were to eliminate the workshop meetings, well, just a couple things. There's two, I'll call them groups of items that would need to be moved to the town board meeting. You know how we occasionally have presentations from developers that gives us a heads up on a project coming? That would obviously switch to the town board meeting. Which, you know, often when you have that is when we were in the old people, when we'd be trying to squeeze too many people into the little meeting room because they're interested in what's coming. So this would be a way for people to be a part of that. And then of course, the other thing are the discussion items, which usually on here are labeled info only. That would need to be added to the town board agenda. You know, whether we do it before, during, or after resolutions, we can figure that out. But otherwise, everything else, you know, the difference would be when we consider the thing, you know, again, if we do the explanation that we normally do here, we would just do that at the board meeting and then vote on it. Then the idea is if we do decide to get rid of the workshop meeting, do we use that time slot to rearrange the other public meetings? So for instance, do we move the special use permit meeting as well as any public hearings to Monday at the 4:30 time slot? So that does a couple things. For the developers and such, it's at the end of their workday. They don't have to go out and do such. The other thing it does is it means it's always a fixed start. Right now, of course, we have to guess how many, well, so we look at how many of the meetings we have scheduled, and then we basically look at it and say, okay, how much time do we think we need? And sometimes we end up with a bunch of time in between the two meetings. Sometimes the special meetings go long and we have to delay the start. So, so the idea here is it would always start at 4:30 and it would just go till the public meetings end. And then the idea is we wouldn't have to do that on Wednesday. That brings up the question then, if we don't ever have special meetings on Wednesday, would we ever want to move the town board meeting earlier? I'm not talking to like 4:30 time, but like, would we want to start at 6 or 6:30 instead of 7? Or we could just start at 7. That does give people time to actually eat in between work and
What is
the
eat?
meeting. What's that?
Nobody eats.
Yeah. So that's what we're looking at. You know, the other thing we felt too is for when you have the big public meetings, it prevents it from being a marathon town board meeting, because to have the public hearing and then the whole stuff, in addition, for any of the stuff that has a public hearing, you've now got the hearing on Monday. I've got 2 days to think about what was brought up before we actually have to vote on stuff on Wednesday. So
We weren't voting on it.
it depended on what the thing was. For certain things like
For big
rezones, we were always tabling it to the following meeting, and we could still do that. But the point is, for all public hearings, it gives you that 2 days. So I'm just wondering, we don't have to make this decision now. I just wanted to bring it up, get people thinking about it. You know, at some point, we would make a decision for some meeting down the road, because we'd obviously have to have enough time to get the public notice out there. But I'm just curious if people had any thoughts, comments on the idea.
It's a good thing to think about. Having something more substantial instead of a workshop.
You have to talk into the speaker. We can't hear you.
Well, and then the other thing that happens is if the, obviously, if we have an empty agenda, then the whole meeting, Monday meeting would be canceled. But sometimes we do have where there's no public hearings and there's no special use permits, in which case you wouldn't show up on a Monday at all. So something to think about.
Okay, thanks.
So as you may have seen, we put together, I got the details from the same individual who helped organize the pride flag raising last year.
Oh, you skipped one, didn't you?
Skipped the
You skipped
driving.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped 12. Number 12, info only, discuss the drive-in concert series. So I got a call from Jeff Springett. For those who don't recognize the name, Jeff used to own Red Creek way back when. More recently, he manages events downtown, Lilac Festival, concerts in the park, stuff like that. He's been getting approached by a lot of the bands who normally participate in those, expressing an interest in doing something. And so he looked at what other communities are doing, and a number of them are doing this drive-in concert series. And the idea is that the cars parked sort of in a checkerboard pattern in the parking lot, with the idea that you park and then leaving an empty parking space between you and the next car, and that's where you can put your chairs. And so then if everybody has chairs with a car between them, they're effectively socially distancing, but they get to enjoy the concert. In talking about that for potential venues, he was approached by one of the developers in town, who said Frontier Plaza, which if you're, it's where Tully's and Jeremiah's are, and the old Frontier call center was in, but a lot of the businesses in that back area are either permanently closed or temporarily closed. And so it's protected essentially on 3 sides. It's a very good location in terms of from them being able to control access. And he wants to put together a proposal more formal proposal. I think I sent something out that just had the initial write-up he was doing. The idea would be that, again, people would drive up, and from a food and drink standpoint, he would have like a golf cart that would bring it to you. You would order online. I expressed to him a concern about Tully's and Jeremiah's. And so he was going to reach out to them to see if they were interested in providing the food and beverage. And if not, if they would at least be okay with it taking place. So we're still waiting to hear from that. But the reason I'm bringing this up now is he would, in order to do that, at our next meeting, we would have a special use permit hearing on the outdoor alcohol. But in addition, he would have to go to the New York State Liquor Authority and get that process started now. Normally they do it about 2 concerts a month. If he's looking at the, he was talking about doing one here in Henrietta, one in downtown, so he'd be looking at in alternating locations, so we would see potentially 1 concert a month. The one, I'll call it negative of that location, is that just on the other side of the plaza, there are homes on Castle Road. Now you will have the natural sound break of the buildings there. The other one is at the west end of that parking lot. There is a hotel, and then also the Heritage Gardens housing complex. So he'd originally talked about putting the band or the stage at the west end. I said, no, that's not going to work. You'll have to put it at the east end where it's blocked by the building. The sound will be captured by the buildings. The hotel, I told him he'd want to coordinate with the hotel so that if on the nights that there are bands, people can make a decision, do they want to be on the music side of the hotel or the quiet side? Not that hotels see a whole lot of business right now, unfortunately. So that's some of, like I said, a lot of those details still have to be worked out. That would all be part of that application. But I just wanted to get a feel for how this goes, because it would be whether, basically I would need to write a letter to the liquor authority saying we're not object to the idea, but that it would be subject to a special use permit. But if we've got 3 board members who think this is a horrible idea, then I wouldn't bother writing that letter. I would tell them just to scrap the idea for Henrietta.
I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, I don't know how this is going to benefit our town, but I'm glad you mentioned the restaurants. I thought about those 3 restaurants there serving food. It would negatively affect
Bill
them.
Gray's too. Thank you. I
Yeah.
got the 3rd one.
And would this be competition for our summer concert series?
I don't know if I would call it competition, especially since our July 17th concert dropped off. This, I believe, would be a paid service, so there would be sales tax generated, I guess is how it would benefit the town. But the bigger thing I look at is that people are looking for things to do in a socially distanced, safe manner, and this would be one way to potentially provide that. So I look at it, I'm more interested in it from a thing to do standpoint than from a revenue generation.
So the alcohol, I'm not really for. It's not.
Well, we're looking at a drive-in movie theater, so I think a drive-in concert. I've heard of a few drive-in performances around town that were very, very successful. I do have concerns about the alcohol as well, because everybody's driving there, so.
It's a good point.
Everybody's driving home.
Well, I assume arguably everyone's driving to any of the concert series, but.
Yeah, but you could also, we would hope that people could also use Uber
True.
or something
Yep.
along those lines.
They're going to have the restaurants sell the alcohol, or they're going to actually have, when you go to concerts, you go up and get the alcohol.
They
But
wouldn't, so I don't know whether they're gonna use the restaurant's liquor license or whether they're going to get their own, like the beer tent type thing.
Mhm.
What their plan was they didn't want people coming to the site to pick it up, they would deliver it. So
Right.
they would have a golf cart that, their thought was you would order online and then they would go to that.
And they're assuming
Parking lot
beer, they're not doing hard alcohol, are they more beer?
I would assume put it, based on all their other events, it's just beer and
Okay.
wine.
Okay.
So I don't know enough about liquor laws to whether they could
Yeah.
get a hard liquor license for that, but, so, Mike, did you have?
I don't know, just the little I know of it so far, from what I read this afternoon and see now. The only other thing is Taps is over there also. I mean, I don't know if they would have any issues.
They're in the front
They're in
parking
the
lot,
front
but
part,
yes,
just-
I did tell them, well, and again, I don't know how much the plaza owners for this, I don't know how much he's talked to his tenants.
Right.
But yes, we would definitely want to get their input as well. I agree.
And just, you mentioned where they would, which way they would be positioned. Maybe if they were facing the west, it'd be worse for those people on the west versus if you were blasting out towards the east.
It's hundreds of feet. It's like it was really close. If you put the stage at the back end,
Okay.
it's real close to that location, whereas it's a pretty wide plaza.
It sounds a lot like when you go to the concert series, when they used to have them down East End Festival and stuff like that. That's what it sounds like to me, except you're in a car. And I'm just reading through here, it does say beer and wine will be sold. There'll be probably porta-johns, I would guess.
Yeah, that's what it says.
I don't think it's a terrible idea. I mean, I just think it's something for people to get out of the house and do something. And I think people just need to be able to do stuff.
What I'll do is I'll let him know that the special permit for alcohol is not a done deal, that there are people with concerns and that you're going to need to be able to address those, and that I just want to set the expectations for him as to, now he may decide, well, if that's the case and with the trouble getting it through the liquor authority, he may decide to say, I'm not going to bother. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a little different than a regular vendor opening up a business and getting their own liquor license. We're putting our name on it. So do it there in a parking lot that's really.
We're not exactly putting our name on it, but this is more akin to like when we authorize, the Moose to have their outdoor event, or, a lot of communities have a field days or a fireman's picnic, that type of thing, with a beer tent.
Yeah.
That's what that special use permit is akin to.
I just feel like we're infringing upon the other vendors in that area, the 3 restaurants that are there.
Well, that's why, again, I told him I want him to get us information as to whether they're interested in it or not. If the 3 of them are not interested, then I'm not interested, because restaurants are struggling enough right now.
Right.
I don't want them to be competition, but if they see it as a means to essentially
That's what I'm
expand
thinking.
their outdoor seating, right, and provide, it might be a huge shot in the arm for those 3 businesses as well.
Yeah.
Which I would fully support. So,
Absolutely.
They might look at it as you're attracting more people to the area.
Right, they'll
Exactly.
come down, they'll listen to some music, go grab some dinner, sit outside. Yeah, I don't,
so I think that, to me, and I said that to him, what those other businesses in the plaza feel about this will greatly determine my vote up or down, so.
and they'll have security there, correct? It doesn't mention anything about security, but I would imagine.
They do, yes.
And the other thing I saw was the self-imposed curfew at 11 p.m. What time will we have them?
That's up to us.
Okay.
He didn't know when our quiet hours are. So that's something that I didn't know that answer either.
Okay.
So, anything else? So I will note that I'm going to zip through the last 4 because we have to have an attorney-client privilege meeting. So we're running just a little bit long here. I'm going to do 14, 15, 16 because they're super straightforward. So, we're going to be appointing our recreation director. It's Pam Grunman, who's being promoted from assistant director. We have a few other personnel items. And then Millie, you're up for bills payable.
Okay.
And then the last thing, item 13, is the declaration for Pride Week. The plan wasn't to do something as, I don't know if you want to call it extravagant or as large as last time because of social distancing. The idea was that they were just going to do something similar to what we saw for those who were able to make it for the Black Lives Matter march and I don't know what you want to call it, discussion event, whatever, on the front lawn, where they just basically had a microphone and people, there were a couple folks who gave speeches, and then anybody from the community was invited to come up and speak for a little bit. So, but people were socially distanced, spread out around the lawn, and everybody had masks on. So that's essentially what they were looking to do. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call the meeting, or excuse me, adjourn the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn? So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no objections, meeting adjourned. So what we're going to do is we're going to go downstairs. We have to